A haunted photography journey with a Playboy who demands more than just a picture. Chapter 1, The Ghostly Shot.
Yo.
Sian Wu, a diligent and talented photography student, begins her day at a serene, historic park, her favorite spot for capturing natural light and moody compositions. She lines up the perfect shot of the morning mist settling over the park's cobblestone paths. However, as she reviews the photos, her stomach drops. Another ghostly figure lurks in the background. This isn't the first time it has happened. Sian Wu rubs her temples, frustrated. For weeks now, every photo she takes contains faint, shadowy figures, spirits frozen mid-motion or staring hauntingly into the lens. While these ghostly appearances could have been dismissed as glitches, Sian Wu knows better. She grew up hearing stories from her grandmother, who often spoke about spirits lingering near the living. As she sits at her desk in her cramped studio later that day, her phone buzzes with an email notification. It's an invitation from Visionaire, a prestigious international photography magazine, offering her an opportunity to collaborate on a feature spread. It's the break Sian Wu has been waiting for her entire life. However, she knows there's a catch. If the photos are plagued by ghosts, her career could be ruined before it even begins. Determined to solve the issue, Sian Wu heads to campus, seeking advice from her photography professor. However, Professor Kim only offers a skeptical laugh and suggests she lay off the late-night editing sessions. Feeling dejected, Sian Wu retreats to the student cafe to brainstorm a solution. Sian Wu sips her iced Americano, her eyes scanning the bustling cafe. Students chatter around her, oblivious to her growing anxiety. She flips through her latest photos on her laptop, each image a haunting montage of ordinary scenes disrupted by ghostly intrusions. Just as she's about to give up, a loud burst of laughter draws her attention to a corner of the cafe. There he is, Choi Moo-young, the campus heartthrob and notorious playboy. With his sharp jawline, disheveled black hair, and effortless charisma, he's surrounded by a group of admirers. Sian Wu rolls her eyes. Moo-young's reputation precedes him, a model, a flirt, and someone she has actively avoided since her freshman year. As she tries to focus on her work, a thought strikes her. She remembers her last encounter with Moo-young at a campus photo shoot last semester. He had insisted on helping by posing uninvited. Oddly enough, she recalls that none of the photos from that day had any ghostly distortions. Could it be a coincidence? Desperation pushes Sian Wu to take a chance. She grabs her camera and marches toward Moo-young's table, ignoring the stares from his entourage. Choi Moo-young, she says firmly, interrupting his conversation. He glances up, clearly amused by her sudden appearance. Well, if it isn't.
Yo.
Sian Wu, the campus hermit. To what do I owe this honor? I need your help, she says bluntly, ignoring his teasing tone. I want you to model for me. Moo-young raises an eyebrow, a sly grin spreading across his face. A photo shoot? I'm flattered. But what's in it for me? Sian Wu clenches her fists, her pride screaming at her to walk away. But she's too desperate. I'll pay you. Whatever you want. His grin widens. I don't need money. How about this? I'll model for you, on one condition. You go on a date with me. The cafe falls silent. Sian Wu feels the heat rising to her cheeks as murmurs ripple through the crowd. A date? Are you insane? She snaps. Mu Young leans back in his chair, unbothered. Take it or leave it. I don't have time to waste. Xianwu glares at him, torn between her need for a ghost-free subject and her intense dislike for his smug attitude. Finally, she grits her teeth and mutters, "Fine. One date. But you'd better show up on time for the shoot." Mu Young beams, standing up and extending his hand. Deal. Xianwu hesitates before shaking his hand, feeling like she's just made a pact with the devil. As she walks away, the weight of her decision sinks in. She might have secured her ghost-free model, but at what cost? The chapter ends with Xianwu reviewing her ghost-riddled portfolio, her eyes narrowing in determination. If she's going to pull this off, she'll need to ensure that Mu Young sticks to his promise, both as a model and as someone who won't make her regret this deal. The next morning, Xianwu prepares her equipment in the university's photography studio. She meticulously cleans her lenses, adjusts her lighting setup, and rechecks her concept sketches. The theme for her collaboration with Visionaire revolves around duality, the seen and the unseen. Ironic, she thinks, considering her current ghost problem. At exactly 10 a.m., the studio door swings open, and in struts Choi Mu Young, exuding effortless charm. Dressed in a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up and black jeans that fit a little too perfectly, he looks every bit the model he claims to be. "You're actually on time," Xianwu remarks, unable to hide her surprise. "I keep my promises," Mu Young replies with a smirk. "And besides, I couldn't let my favorite photographer down." Xianwu rolls her eyes and points to the designated spot under the lights. "Let's just get started." As the session begins, Xianwu focuses on capturing Mu Young's angles. He's annoyingly photogenic, shifting effortlessly between poses. What's more surprising is the absence of any ghostly interference in the shots. For the first time in weeks, her camera captures nothing but clean, clear images. "Perfect," she mutters under her breath, reviewing the photos. Mu Young overhears and grins. "I'll take that as a compliment." "Don't let it go to your head," she snaps, but a small part of her is begrudgingly impressed. "Xianwu. Open up." She scrambles to unlock it, and Mu Young steps in, looking concerned. He's wearing a hoodie and joggers, clearly having rushed over. Without a word, he scans the room, his expression darkening. "You weren't kidding," he mutters, closing the door behind him. "What's happening?" Xianwu asks, her voice shaking. "Why are they getting stronger?" Mu Young doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he walks to her desk and stares at the photo on her laptop screen. The faint figure of the woman in the flowing dress seems more pronounced now, almost as if she's trying to push through the frame. "This isn't normal," he says quietly. "She's different from the others." "What do you mean different?" "She's not just a random ghost. She's attached to you. A past connection." Xianwu sits down, her legs feeling weak. "Attached to me? Why?" Mu Young hesitates, then pulls out a small silver charm from around his neck. "This usually keeps them away, but I don't think it'll work on her. She's too focused on you." "What is that?" Xianwu asks, eyeing the charm. "It's something my grandmother gave me. She said it was for protection." Xianwu looks at him, desperate for answers. "Mu Young, you need to tell me everything. Why are you involved in this? Why don't the ghosts appear in your photos?" Mu-young sighs and sits across from her. I told you, I've always been able to sense them. My grandmother used to say it was because of our family's connection to the spirit world. She was a shaman, and she believed I inherited her ability. I never thought much of it until I met you. Me? He nods. You're the first person I've met who seems to attract them. It's like they're drawn to you, but I don't think it's random. I think it's connected to your past. My past? Xianwu racks her brain but comes up empty. I've never had any supernatural experiences before this started happening. Think harder, Mu-young presses. Did anything strange happen when you were a kid? Any near-death experiences? Family tragedies? Xianwu shakes her head, but then she remembers something. There was an accident when I was 8. My parents and I were in a car crash. I was unconscious for days, but when I woke up, the doctors said it was a miracle I survived. Mu-young's expression grows serious. That might be it. People who've had near-death experiences sometimes develop a stronger connection to the spirit world. Maybe that's why they're drawn to you now. The ghost's message. Before Xianwu can process this revelation, the temperature in the room drops even further. The lights flicker, and a chilling wind sweeps through the space. Mu-young grabs her arm, pulling her close. Stay behind me. The faint whispers intensify, and the figure from the photo begins to materialize in front of them. She's a translucent woman with long, flowing hair and a sorrowful expression. Her lips move, but no sound comes out. Can you hear her? Mu-young asks, his voice steady. Xianwu shakes her head, her eyes wide with fear. No, but she's trying to say something. Mu-young steps forward, holding out his charm. What do you want? He demands. The ghost points at Xianwu, her expression desperate. Then, she raises her hand and writes something in the air with her translucent finger. The glowing letters spell out, "Help me." Xianwu gasps, her fear momentarily replaced by confusion. Help you? How? The ghost looks at her with pleading eyes before disappearing into a swirl of mist. The room returns to normal, but the heavy feeling in the air remains. A new mission. Mu-young turns to Xianwu. Looks like you're not just dealing with random ghosts anymore. She wants something from you. But why me? Xianwu whispers. I don't know yet, he admits, but if we're going to figure this out, you're going to need me. Xianwu looks at him, her emotions a mix of fear, frustration, and reluctant gratitude. Fine, she says. But this doesn't mean we're friends. Mu-young chuckles. Whatever you say, partner. As they sit down to plan their next steps, Xianwu can't shake the feeling that her life is about to change in ways she never imagined. Chapter 4, Shadows in the Lens. The next day, Xianwu decides to test what she's learned. She avoids taking random photos and instead focuses on the one person who doesn't seem to attract ghosts, Mu-young. Armed with her camera and an overwhelming sense of curiosity, she heads to the campus photography studio, where Mu-young is waiting. As soon as she arrives, she notices Mu-young leaning casually against the backdrop, a faint smirk on his face. Ready for my close-up, he teases. Just stay still and don't distract me, she snaps, setting up her equipment. A ghost-free frame? The first few shots go smoothly. Mu-young poses with a surprising amount of professionalism for someone who claims he's never modeled before. Xianwu clicks away, her eyes glued to the viewfinder. And just as she hoped, the photos come out perfectly normal. No strange shadows. No ghostly figures lurking in the background. See? I told you I'm special, Mu-young says smugly, leaning in to look at the images on her camera. Don't let it get to your head, Sian-woo retorts, though she can't deny the sense of relief washing over her. A haunting interruption. Just as Sian-woo begins to pack up her gear, the lights in the studio flicker. The temperature drops, and a chilling breeze sweeps through the room. Sian-woo freezes. Not again. Mu-young immediately tenses, pulling out his silver charm. Stay close to me. Before either of them can react further, the ghost from the previous night appears in the middle of the room. Her sorrowful eyes are locked on Sian-woo. Help me, this time, her voice is audible, though faint and echoing. Sian-woo stumbles backward, her breath catching in her throat. What do you want from me? The ghost raises her hand again, this time pointing at the camera in Sian-woo's hand. Mu-young narrows his eyes. She's trying to tell you something about your photos. Unlocking the truth. Sian-woo hesitantly raises the camera and aims it at the ghost. She snaps a photo, and when she looks at the screen, her heart nearly stops. The image shows the ghost standing in a familiar location, a small, abandoned park near the outskirts of the city. That's the old Yunhua Park, Mu-young says, recognizing it immediately. The ghost nods, her translucent figure beginning to fade. Please, find me. Before Sian-woo can ask more questions, the ghost vanishes completely, leaving the room silent and cold. A dangerous lead. Mu-young turns to Sian-woo, his expression serious. Looks like we've got our next destination. Are you crazy? Sian-woo exclaims. You expect me to go to a haunted park just because a ghost told me to? She didn't just tell you. She begged you, Mu-young replies. There's something there that she needs us to find. And if we don't, these hauntings aren't going to stop. Sian-woo groans, running a hand through her hair. Why is this happening to me? Mu-young smirks. Because you're special, just like me. Don't push your luck. Despite her reluctance, Sian-woo knows she has no choice. The ghosts aren't going to leave her alone, and she's desperate for answers. Preparing for the unknown. That evening, Sian-woo and Mu-young gather supplies for their trip to Yunhua Park. Flashlights, cameras, and Mu-young's silver charm are packed carefully into Sian-woo's bag. As they prepare to leave, Mu-young glances at her. You sure you're ready for this? No, Sian-woo admits, but I don't think I'll ever be ready. Let's just get it over with. With that, the two set off into the night, unaware of the dangers and secrets that await them at the haunted park. Chapter 5, Into the Darkness. Yunhua Park is eerily quiet. The sound of rustling leaves the only noise as Sian-woo and Mu-young make their way through the abandoned entrance. The once lively park, now a forgotten relic, is covered in overgrown weeds, and the old playground equipment creaks in the wind. The air feels thick, heavy with a presence that neither of them can ignore. Sian-woo pulls her jacket tighter around her body, the chill in the air more intense than before. This place feels wrong, she mutters, her voice barely above a whisper. Mu-young scans the area, his senses on high alert. Stay close. If anything happens, don't wander off. They walk deeper into the park, the faint light from their flashlights illuminating the neglected paths. The distant sound of dripping water echoes, making Sian-woo jump every time the noise gets louder. A haunting discovery. They finally reach the center of the park, where a large, ancient tree stands. Its gnarled branches stretch toward the sky like the twisted fingers of some long-forgotten spirit. At the base of the tree is a small stone monument, half buried in dirt. Xianwu kneels to get a better look, wiping the dirt away with her hand. A name is engraved on the stone, Yi Heiyang, 1996 to 2016. Xianwu's breath catches in her throat. This is her. The ghost's name is Heiyang. Muyang steps forward, looking down at the stone with a furrowed brow. Yi Heiyang, he repeats the name as if trying to remember something. I've heard that name before. Xianwu looks up, puzzled. What do you mean? I don't know yet. Let's keep looking, Muyang replies, his eyes scanning the surroundings. The ghosts return. Just as Xianwu stands up, a sudden gust of wind blows through the park, sending a chill down her spine. The flashlight flickers, and the temperature drops sharply. The ghost, Heiyang, materializes in front of them once again, her ghostly figure flickering in and out of view. Please, help me, her voice is barely audible, but it's unmistakably pleading. Xianwu stares at the ghost, her heart racing. What happened to you? Why are you here? The ghost points toward the stone monument, her eyes filled with a sorrowful, desperate look. Then, she gestures at Xianwu and Muyang. I died here, under the tree, Heiyang whispers, her form growing more solid, her expression pained. But no one knew. They left me, alone. Xianwu takes a step forward, her mind racing. Why didn't anyone know? How did you die? Heiyang's figure flickers again, her expression twisting in agony. I was betrayed. My life was stolen from me. Before Xianwu can ask more questions, the ghost begins to fade. Please, find the truth, she whispers, her voice growing distant. The secret's unveiled. The air goes still, and Heiyang is gone, leaving only the weight of her words hanging in the air. Xianwu looks at Muyang, her hands trembling. What did she mean? What truth? Muyang turns to the stone monument once more, his gaze narrowed. There's something off about this. She said she was betrayed, but it's more than that. I think someone important was involved in her death. Xianwu's mind races. Do you think it was murder? Muyang hesitates before answering. It's possible. I think we need to dig deeper. There's something here that doesn't add up, and I don't think we're the only ones looking for answers. Xianwu nods, the weight of the situation sinking in. So, what now? We keep investigating, Muyang says, determination in his eyes. We find out who Heiyang was and what happened to her. And if there's a killer out there, we'll make sure they don't get away with it. A dark connection. As Xianwu and Muyang prepare to leave the park, a strange feeling settles over them. The hairs on the back of Xianwu's neck stand on end, and she turns around, her heart racing. For a brief moment, she swears she sees a shadowy figure standing beneath the tree, watching them. But when she blinks, it's gone, leaving only an empty, silent park behind. I don't like this, she whispers, gripping the strap of her bag tightly. I don't think we're alone. Muyang looks at her with a knowing expression. We're never alone when it comes to ghosts. But don't worry, I've got your back. Xianwu nods, though her unease only grows. The mystery of Heiyang's death and the haunting they've just uncovered is only the beginning. She can feel it deep in her bones. They are about to uncover a dark and dangerous truth, one that might change everything. Chapter 6, Unraveling the Past. The next morning, Xianwu and Mu Young sit in the university library, surrounded by stacks of old books, newspapers, and records. They've decided to investigate further into Hae-young's past, and Xianwu has been scouring every available resource for information. Despite the overwhelming amount of material, she can't shake the feeling that they're missing something crucial. Nothing yet, Xianwu mutters, flipping through another page of a local newspaper from 2016. It's like she never existed. Mu Young leans back in his chair, a slight frown on his face. That's what's strange about this. If she was truly a student here, there should be some trace of her. Xianwu looks up, frustrated. But there isn't. No one remembers her. It's like she's been erased from history. Mu Young's gaze sharpens. That's exactly it. Someone wanted to bury her, and they've done a good job of it. But why? Xianwu rubs her temples, trying to piece everything together. She said she was betrayed. But by who? Who would have wanted to erase her? Before Mu Young can respond, Xianwu's phone buzzes. It's a message from one of her classmates, Jean. Jean. Xianwu, you need to check the old campus records. I found something. I think you're looking in the wrong place. Xianwu's heart skips a beat. Jean. Found something. We need to go. A hidden connection. When Xianwu and Mu Young arrive at the location Jean mentioned, a small, forgotten archive in the corner of the campus, they're greeted by a dimly lit room filled with dusty files and forgotten documents. Jean is already waiting, her eyes wide with urgency. I was digging through some old student records, and I found this, she says, handing Xianwu a worn, yellowed document. Xianwu reads aloud the name that catches her eye, Hae-young, listed as a student who enrolled at the university in 2014 but was mysteriously withdrawn in 2016, just 2 years before her supposed death. This doesn't make sense, Xianwu murmurs, turning the paper over. It says she was withdrawn by a family member. But why wasn't there any notification? Why didn't anyone remember her? Jean. Eyes narrow. It gets worse. I found an entry in the archives about an incident involving her, of suicide attempt, by jumping into the Han River. Xianwu feels a chill creep down her spine. But she didn't die. No, she didn't, Jean confirms. But it says she was missing for weeks before her body was found. And there's no mention of what really happened after that. Mu Young's jaw tightens. Who made the suicide attempt public? Why was it framed as something so simple? Xianwu looks at Mu Young, her thoughts racing. Someone wanted to silence her, to erase everything about her life. They didn't want her story to be told. The family secret. Xianwu's mind is spinning as they pore over the documents. The more they uncover, the more the pieces seem to connect. Hae-young's death was not a simple accident, and her family played a significant role in suppressing her past. But who in her family could be involved? I think we need to look deeper into her family, Xianwu says, determination in her voice. Someone close to her is hiding something, and it's not just about her death. They've covered up her life, too. Mu Young nods. It's not going to be easy, but we can't back down now. Whatever they're hiding, it's important. And it's tied to the hauntings. As Xianwu puts the papers back in the folder, her phone buzzes again. This time, it's a message from the magazine editor who had contacted her earlier. Editor, I have a lead on the photos you're submitting. Something strange is happening with them. I think it's connected to your ghostly problem. Let me know when you're free to talk. Sian-woo's heart races. This could be the breakthrough we need. A sinister revelation. Later that evening, Sian-woo and Moo-young meet the editor at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. The editor, a middle-aged man with graying hair, looks frazzled. As soon as they sit down, he wastes no time getting to the point. Listen, Sian-woo, we've been reviewing your photos. And something's off about them. At first, I thought it was just bad lighting or a technical issue, but the more we looked, the more I realized there's a pattern. What pattern? Sian-woo asks, her curiosity piqued. The editor leans forward. There's always a figure in the background, almost like a ghost, appearing in each of your photos. And it's not just any figure, it's the same one, the woman from the park. Sian-woo's breath catches. You saw her? The editor nods gravely. We enlarged one of the photos and ran it through some filters. We were able to make out her face. And it matches the description you gave us. But there's more. In one of the photos, I noticed a name on the gravestone in the background. A name? Sian-woo repeats, her heart pounding. What name? The editor pulls out his tablet and shows them the image. The gravestone is clearly visible, and the name engraved is Lee Hae-young. The final puzzle piece. Sian-woo's mind races as she stares at the tablet screen. It's her. The ghost. Hae-young. Moo-young looks at the editor, his expression darkening. What does this mean? The editor hesitates. It means Hae-young's presence is tied to your photos. And that grave, if it's real, could hold the key to everything. We need to go back to the park, to that monument. Something tells me it's the final piece of the puzzle. Sian-woo and Moo-young exchange a look. They know they can't back down now. The truth is within their grasp, but the closer they get to uncovering it, the more dangerous their journey becomes. To the monument. With renewed determination, Sian-woo and Moo-young head back to Yeonhwa Park, the place where everything began. But as they walk toward the monument, they both sense something has changed. The air is heavier now, filled with an oppressive energy that only deepens the mystery surrounding Lee Hae-young's tragic past. Sian-woo stops in front of the monument, her heart beating faster. This is it. This is where it all ends. But as she reaches out to touch the stone, a voice calls out from the shadows. You shouldn't have come back. They turn to find a figure standing in the distance, a person cloaked in darkness, watching them with intent. Chapter 7, The Shadow in the Park. The figure standing in the distance sends a chill down Sian-woo's spine. Her hand instinctively tightens around the camera strap slung across her shoulder. Moo-young's eyes narrow as he steps slightly in front of her, protective instinct kicking in. Who's there? Moo-young calls out, his voice low and commanding. The figure doesn't respond immediately. Instead, they take a step forward, emerging from the shadows just enough for Sian-woo to make out a tall, slender silhouette. The face remains obscured by the dim light, but the voice is unmistakable. I warned you, the figure says again, this time with more clarity, a calm yet chilling tone. You should have left well enough alone. Sian-woo's heart races. She can feel the weight of the atmosphere thickening, and a sense of foreboding fills the air. The voice sounds eerily familiar, and her gut twists with unease. Moo-young, do you know who that is? Sian-woo whispers, but Moo-young remains silent, scanning the figure with caution. The figure steps forward into the pale light cast by a nearby street lamp, revealing a woman's face, sharp features, pale skin, and long black hair. She's dressed in a long, flowing coat that seems out of place in the warm night. It's almost as if she doesn't belong in this world. Xianwu's breath catches in her throat. She recognizes her. "Hey Young," she breathes. The woman, Hey Young, smiles faintly, but there's a sadness in her eyes. "So, you've finally figured it out, Xianwu." Her voice is soft, almost melancholic. "But it's too late. You can't save me." Xianwu steps back, her mind whirling with the implications of what's happening. "You're alive?" she asks in disbelief, her heart pounding. She knows what she saw in the photos, what she saw in the park. It didn't make sense. "No," Young responds quietly, her smile fading. "I'm not alive. But neither am I fully gone." Xianwu looks at Young, who stands frozen, eyes wide, taking in the moment. The mystery they've been chasing for so long is now standing in front of them, and yet it raises even more questions. "You were never truly dead," Young says slowly, the pieces starting to fall into place. "But you weren't alive either. You were trapped. That's what this is about, isn't it? A curse? A betrayal?" Young's eyes flicker with something like pain as she nods. "It's all true. I was betrayed by the people I trusted most. My family, my friends. And the worst part?" Her voice breaks, her hand trembling as she lifts it toward the grave monument behind her. "They let me die. They let my spirit wander, and no one helped me." Xianwu's heart aches. "But why haunt the photos? Why come after me?" she asks, her voice filled with sorrow. Young looks down at the ground, as if ashamed. "Because I was trying to make people remember me. I wanted someone to find out what happened, to uncover the truth. And when I saw your photos, you saw me. You saw my pain. But I wasn't trying to. I didn't know. I thought it was just a ghost in the background," Xianwu stammers, her mind racing. "I never meant to." Young raises a hand, silencing her. "I know, Xianwu. You didn't choose this. But you were the one who noticed. And now you're the only one who can help me find peace." Xianwu's heart breaks for the woman in front of her, lost and broken by the cruelty of the world. But the weight of the situation feels heavier with every word Young speaks. "How can I help you?" Xianwu asks, her voice trembling. "Uncover the truth," Young whispers, her eyes locking with Xianwu's. "Find the ones who did this to me. Bring them to light. Only then will I be able to rest." Xianwu feels her stomach churn with the responsibility placed upon her shoulders. But she can't walk away now, not after everything she's learned. The photos, the eerie presence, the ghostly figures, they've all led to this moment. "I'll help you," Xianwu says, her voice steady. "But I need to know everything. The full story. Tell me what happened." Chapter 8, The Truth Comes to Light. Young takes a deep breath, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of sadness and resolution. She begins to tell her story, the full, heartbreaking truth. "I was once a student at this university, much like you," Young begins, her voice soft and distant. "I came from a wealthy family, and my parents were well respected in our community. But it wasn't the family I loved, it was my best friend, my confidant, who I trusted most." Xianwu listens intently as Young continues, revealing a deep betrayal. She had been in love with someone, someone she thought was her soulmate. But that person had betrayed her in the most brutal way possible, by stealing her future, her identity, and her love. Her best friend, someone she had trusted like a sister, had taken everything from her. They told me I was crazy. That I wasn't worth anyone's time. And when I tried to confront them, when I tried to expose the truth, they silenced me. My family, my best friend, they all turned on me. I was left to disappear. Hae-young's voice falters, and she pulls her coat tighter around herself as though trying to shield herself from the memories. Seon-woo feels the weight of her words. She can't imagine the depth of pain Hae-young must have felt, betrayed by the ones closest to her, her life turned upside down in an instant. And when I died, they erased me. No one cared. No one even looked for me. Hae-young's voice trembles as she pauses. Except you. You saw me in the photos. The revelation hits Seon-woo with a sudden clarity. Hae-young had been desperately trying to send a message, and the photos had been the only way she could reach out, the only way she could be seen. I'll help you find justice, Seon-woo promises, determination flooding her veins. I'll make sure they pay for what they did to you. Moo-young steps forward then, his presence grounding. We'll find them. Together. Hae-young nods, a flicker of gratitude crossing her ghostly face. Thank you. But as the words hang in the air, a strange silence descends over the park. The wind shifts, and the shadows deepen. The ones responsible are still watching, Hae-young warns, her expression darkening. They won't make it easy for you. But you have to keep going, Seon-woo. You have to uncover the truth. Before it's too late. Seon-woo looks at Moo-young, his hand brushing hers, offering silent support. Together, they know their path ahead will be filled with danger and uncertainty. But they can't stop now. They've come too far, and the truth is waiting to be uncovered. Chapter 9, The Hunt begins. The night is far from over, and the mystery is far from solved. The hunt for the truth, and the dangers that come with it, have only just begun. Seon-woo and Moo-young are about to delve deeper into the dark corners of Hae-young's past, and the ghosts of the past are not ready to let them go. But with every step they take, they get closer to unraveling the curse that has haunted Hae-young's life and death. And the closer they get, the more they risk losing their own lives in the process. The truth is out there. But will they survive long enough to uncover it? Chapter 10, Unraveling the Web. Seon-woo and Moo-young sit in silence, the weight of the mystery pressing down on them. The park is eerily quiet, save for the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Hae-young's ghost has faded into the darkness, leaving them alone with their thoughts. But Seon-woo's mind is anything but still. The truth Hae-young spoke of feels like a labyrinth, twisting and turning in ways she couldn't have imagined. We need to go to her house, Seon-woo murmurs, her eyes focused on the shadows. She said her family and best friend were the ones who betrayed her. Maybe there's something there, something they left behind. Moo-young's gaze sharpens. I agree. But we need to be careful. Whoever did this is still out there. If they found out we're looking into Hae-young's past, we might be walking straight into a trap. Seon-woo nods. The pit in her stomach deepens. She can feel the danger closing in, but there's no turning back now. They have to uncover the truth. For Hae-young. For justice. Chapter 11, The Hidden Diary. The following night, Seon-woo and Moo-young arrive at the gates of a grand mansion nestled at the edge of the city. The estate looks pristine from the outside, but there's an unsettling stillness to the place. It's as though the house has been untouched for years, frozen in time. Woo feels the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. We need to be quick, Young warns, his eyes scanning the perimeter. Inside the mansion, they move through the dark hallways, each room more grandiose than the last. The house exudes an air of old wealth, faded portraits of ancestors, dusty chandeliers, and antiques that haven't seen the light of day in decades. They finally find their way to Young's childhood bedroom. The room is just as she left it, her personal belongings still scattered about, the bed neatly made, and a desk cluttered with journals. Woo's heart races as she approaches the desk, her eyes falling on a thick leather-bound book. It's Young's diary. Without hesitation, she flips it open. The entries are filled with pain, betrayal, and a gradual descent into madness. Each page reveals more about her fractured relationship with her family and best friend. Woo's fingers tremble as she reads a particularly haunting entry from the night before Young's death. I trusted them. They said I was crazy, but I know the truth. The ones I loved, they've been using me. They took everything from me, and now they want to silence me forever. They'll do anything to make sure no one finds out. I won't let them win. I'll make sure they never forget my name. Woo's breath hitches as she reads the last line. It's clear now, Young had been trying to warn everyone. But who exactly was she talking about? And why did they want to erase her so badly? Just as Woo tries to digest the gravity of the revelation, a sudden noise echoes from downstairs. Young tenses. We're not alone, he mutters. Before Woo can react, the door slams open. A man steps into the room, his face shadowed, but there's something about him that feels familiar. Young. Woo, the man says in a low, dangerous tone. I knew you'd come here eventually. I've been waiting for you. Woo's blood runs cold. She recognizes him. It's Young's best friend, the one who betrayed her. The one who's still hiding something. Chapter 12, The Mastermind. The man steps forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. You've been poking around in things that were never meant to be uncovered, he says, his voice smooth, almost reassuring. This is bigger than you think. Young wasn't just some victim of fate. She was a threat. She was going to expose things that no one wanted exposed. Young steps forward, blocking Woo from his view. Who the hell are you, and what did you do to Young? The man smirks. My name is Lee Junhyuk. And I'm the one who orchestrated everything. You've been digging up ghosts, but you don't understand, Young wasn't just a casualty. She was part of a much bigger game. Woo's heart races. She wants to ask more, but Junhyuk continues without waiting for her questions. She was a pawn in a scheme that reached further than you could ever imagine, he says. The ones who truly betrayed her aren't just her family or friends. They're powerful people. People you wouldn't dare cross. People who made sure she stayed dead, until she came back. Woo's mind is spinning. What do you mean? What game are you talking about? Junhyuk steps closer, his eyes glinting with a strange mix of admiration and threat. The game of power. The game of control. Young was going to expose a powerful syndicate of corrupt individuals involved in illegal activities, business, politics, even the underground. And when she started to get too close to the truth, well, they made sure she disappeared. And now, you're both caught in the web. Woo's stomach drops. She had no idea that what started as a simple haunting was part of something far more sinister. And the worst part? Junhyuk's words ring with an uncomfortable truth. Why are you telling us this? Young asks, his voice sharp with suspicion. You're obviously part of this. Junhyuk smiles, a dangerous, knowing smile. Because you two are the key. Hae-young's curse is the only way to make them feel the consequences of their actions. I'm not here to stop you, I'm here to make sure you do what needs to be done. But don't think it's going to be easy. There's a lot more at stake here than you realize. Seon-woo feels her pulse quicken as the realization sets in. They're not just uncovering a personal tragedy anymore. They're standing on the edge of something much larger, much darker, than they could have imagined. And if they're not careful, they might just become the next pawns in the game. Chapter 13, The Ghost's Bargain. As Jun-hyuk turns to leave, he pauses at the door, his hand resting on the handle. One last thing, he says, his voice dripping with menace. You think you're saving Hae-young by uncovering the truth. But remember, the deeper you dig, the more dangerous it becomes. This isn't just about ghosts anymore. This is about survival. With that, he disappears into the shadows, leaving Seon-woo and Moo-young in a whirlwind of uncertainty. The mansion, once a place of haunting memories, now feels like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode with secrets that could change everything. Seon-woo looks at Moo-young, her eyes filled with determination. We have to keep going. We can't back down now. Moo-young nods, his expression darkening. I'll follow you to the end, Seon-woo. But we need to be prepared. We're not just fighting for Hae-young anymore, we're fighting for our lives. As they leave the mansion, they realize they're in too deep to turn back. The truth is tangled in a web of corruption, betrayal, and supernatural forces. And the ghosts they thought they were saving might be the ones leading them straight into the heart of darkness. The twists and turns are far from over. And the biggest revelation is still ahead. Chapter 14, The Unseen Enemy. The night grows colder as Seon-woo and Moo-young leave the mansion, the weight of Jun-hyuk's words hanging heavily between them. The silence that follows is thick with tension, but there's no turning back. They've come too far to stop now. Seon-woo's mind races as they drive back to her apartment. The details of Jun-hyuk's revelations are still spinning in her head. He wasn't just part of the conspiracy, he was its mastermind. And the syndicate he mentioned? It's something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. We need to find out who's involved in this, Moo-young says, breaking the silence as he glances at her. We've been investigating the wrong people. It's not just Hae-young's family, it's much bigger than that. Seon-woo nods, but there's a flicker of doubt in her chest. But how do we even start? If Jun-hyuk's right, there are powerful people involved. People who won't hesitate to silence us if we get too close. Moo-young's eyes harden. We've already made ourselves a target. But that doesn't mean we can stop now. We've uncovered too much. If we back off now, we're just giving them what they want. They reach Seon-woo's apartment, and she shuts the door behind them, her mind already working on the next step. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. The last thing she wants is to fall into the same trap that claimed Hae-young's life, but the truth is more elusive than ever. How can she expose the syndicate if it's so well hidden? We need allies, she says suddenly, her voice firm. People who can help us track down the ones who killed Hae-young. There has to be someone we can trust. Moo-young looks at her thoughtfully. You're right. We can't do this alone. Chapter 15, The Hidden Ally. The next day, Seon-woo reaches out to an old friend, someone who once worked in a high-ranking government position and had connections in the law enforcement world. His name is Park Jae-hyun, and he was once someone Seon-woo trusted with everything. She knows that he'll be her best shot at finding out who's truly behind the syndicate. After a tense exchange of messages, Sean-woo and Moo-young meet with Jae-hyun in a secluded cafe, away from prying eyes. Jae-hyun's face is tight with worry, his eyes scanning the surroundings as if he knows they're being watched. "What's going on, Sean-woo?" Jae-hyun asks, his voice low. "You know better than to get involved with people like this. You've already stepped into something you can't escape from. Are you sure you want to keep going?" Sean-woo doesn't hesitate. "I don't have a choice, Jae-hyun. Hae-young was murdered because she got too close to something she wasn't supposed to. And now we're in the middle of it. We need your help to expose the truth." Jae-hyun looks at them both, his face darkening. "You're right. But this isn't going to be easy. The people you're going up against? They have connections everywhere, government, business, even law enforcement. You're not just fighting against one person or group. This is a network of people who have built their power for years." Sean-woo leans in, her determination unwavering. "Then we'll bring the whole thing down." Jae-hyun sighs heavily but nods. "All right. I'll help you. But you need to promise me one thing. You need to be ready for the consequences. Once you open this door, there's no going back." Sean-woo's heart skips a beat. But she knows she's already too deep to back out. She nods firmly. "I'm ready." Chapter 16, The Web Tightens. Over the next few days, Jae-hyun uses his contacts to dig deeper into the mysterious syndicate. He uncovers several names, politicians, business moguls, and even law enforcement officers who are somehow connected to Hae-young's death. But the deeper they go, the more dangerous it becomes. Sean-woo and Moo-young are constantly on edge, aware that they're being followed, that someone is watching their every move. They can't even trust their own phones anymore. Any attempt to communicate via text or email is met with strange glitches and strange warnings. The ghostly presence in Sean-woo's photos intensifies as well, almost as if it's trying to communicate with her, urging her to move faster, to uncover the truth before it's too late. One night, as Sean-woo sits in her apartment, reviewing the list of names Jae-hyun has compiled, her phone rings. It's an unknown number, but the voice on the other end is unmistakable. "It's time," the voice says, cold and emotionless. "You're getting too close. If you don't stop now, there will be consequences. You've been warned." Sean-woo's blood runs cold, but she forces herself to speak. "Who are you? What do you want?" There's a pause, and then a soft chuckle. "You know exactly who I am. I'm the one who made sure Hae-young never got the chance to expose the truth. And I'll make sure you don't either." The line goes dead before Sean-woo can respond. She slams the phone down in frustration, her heart racing. It's clear now, there's no way out. The syndicate is closing in on them, and they'll stop at nothing to keep their secrets buried. But Sean-woo refuses to back down. She won't let Hae-young's death be in vain. Chapter 17, The Betrayal. As Sean-woo and Moo-young prepare for the next phase of their plan, an unexpected twist throws them off course. Jae-hyun, the very person who had promised to help them, is suddenly nowhere to be found. His phone is off, and his last known location is a dead end. Sean-woo feels the ground beneath her shake. Could he have betrayed them? Was he working for the syndicate all along? Desperately, they search for answers, but every lead they follow only seems to lead to more questions. It's as if the world is conspiring against them. Then, Sean-woo receives an anonymous email, with only one line of text: "The truth is closer than you think." Attached to the email is a photograph, one of Sian-woo herself, taken from the shadows, her face contorted in fear as she stands outside her apartment building. Someone has been watching her the entire time. The web is closing in. But Sian-woo and Moo-young aren't giving up. The hunt for the truth has only just begun, and with every twist and turn, the stakes grow higher. As they move forward, they realize something chilling. The past is not only haunting them, it's actively trying to destroy them. And the only way to survive is to uncover the final piece of the puzzle, before it's too late. Chapter 18, The Shocking Revelation. As the days pass, Sian-woo feels the walls closing in. The unsettling feeling that they are being watched intensifies, and the ghostly presence in her photos grows stronger with each shot. She can't ignore the eerie whispers that seem to follow her wherever she goes, and the faces of the spirits in her images begin to reveal cryptic messages, images of people she doesn't recognize, but whose identities she feels strangely connected to. Each photograph feels like a piece of a larger puzzle, but the more she uncovers, the more dangerous it becomes. With Jaehyun's disappearance still hanging over her like a dark cloud, Sian-woo and Moo-young begin to question everyone around them. Could they have misjudged him? Was he always part of the syndicate, playing a role to mislead them? The paranoia sets in, and the trust they had in their allies starts to fracture. Moo-young, usually the calm and collected one, grows increasingly uneasy. His earlier bravado fades into frustration as they realize the scale of the conspiracy they are fighting. The more they uncover, the more it seems like the entire city is complicit in some way, and their lives are in constant danger. Late one night, after a long and exhausting day of trying to connect the dots, Sian-woo stumbles upon an old photograph, a photo she had taken years ago of her university campus. As she inspects the image, something odd catches her eye. In the background of the photo, barely visible but unmistakable, is a figure she recognizes, Park Jae-hyun, standing with someone she knows very well, someone she thought she could trust, Choi Moo-young. Her breath catches in her throat. Could Moo-young have been involved in this all along? She feels betrayed, her thoughts swirling as she confronts him, standing there in the middle of the apartment. Moo-young, what is this? Sian-woo asks, her voice trembling. Moo-young's face pales, and for a moment, he seems to lose his usual confident composure. What are you talking about? This photograph, she says, holding it up for him to see. You and Jae-hyun. You're involved in this somehow. Aren't you? Moo-young doesn't immediately respond, his eyes darting to the photo, then to Sian-woo's face. The silence between them is thick, and the tension is almost suffocating. Moo-young? Sian-woo presses, her heart racing. He exhales sharply, running a hand through his hair. Sian-woo. I need to explain. But not here. Not now. It's too dangerous. Please, just trust me. Sian-woo shakes her head, feeling the weight of the moment bearing down on her. She wants to believe him, but the photo, the connections to Jae-hyun, everything feels like a lie. Before she can speak, a loud crash outside her apartment interrupts the confrontation. Someone has broken in. Both Sian-woo and Moo-young jump to their feet, their instincts kicking in. Chapter 19, The Final Countdown. The apartment is eerily quiet as they carefully make their way toward the front door. Moo-young motions for Sian-woo to stay back, but she refuses. She's not going to hide anymore. She's ready to face whatever comes next, whether it's the truth about Moo-young or the syndicate that's after them. The door creaks open, and a figure steps into the dimly lit hallway. It's not Jae-hyun, but someone even more unexpected, one of Sian-woo's old university professors, Professor Kang. He had always been kind to her, a mentor in her photography career, but now, standing in her doorway, his presence is menacing. "Sian-woo," he says softly, almost like a whisper. "You've come too far. You don't know what you're getting into." Sian-woo's heart races. "What do you mean? What's going on?" Professor Kong steps forward, his face a mask of cold calculation. "You should have stayed out of this. The ghostly phenomena, the murders, it's all connected. You've been caught in a game you don't understand, and now it's too late. The syndicate doesn't forgive mistakes. And you've made too many." Sian-woo looks at Mu-young, whose expression hardens. "Why are you involved in this, Professor? What does the syndicate want with me?" Professor Kong laughs darkly, a sound that chills Sian-woo to the bone. "It's not about you, Sian-woo. It's about the power. You see, you've been used from the start. The ghosts in your photos, they're not just coincidences. They're warning signs. The people you've been trusting aren't who you think they are." At that moment, everything starts to fall into place. The spirits Sian-woo has been seeing in her photos weren't just random apparitions, they were victims, souls caught in a twisted web of deceit. And the person who was pulling the strings all along was someone she never suspected. Her hands tremble as the truth hits her with full force. You were behind it all, weren't you? You killed Hae-young. And you were manipulating Mu-young." Professor Kang's eyes narrow. "No. You're wrong. Mu-young wasn't the one you should have been looking at. It was always about you, Sian-woo. You were the key. You were meant to be the one who discovered everything." Mu-young steps forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "What does that mean? What are you saying?" Before the professor can answer, Sian-woo suddenly understands. It wasn't just a simple conspiracy, it was a twisted game, a manipulation of people's fates, orchestrated by someone who had been hiding in plain sight. A new realization hits her with shocking clarity. Professor Kong had been using her all along, grooming her to uncover the truth as part of a larger plan. Everything, the ghosts, the photos, the inexplicable connections, was all part of his sick game. Just as Sian-woo opens her mouth to confront him, Mu-young lunges, knocking the professor to the ground. The fight becomes chaotic, as Sian-woo scrambles to figure out her next move. The walls of the apartment seem to close in on them, and the ghostly figures in her photos become more distinct, almost as if they are alive, pushing them toward a final confrontation. As Mu-young and Professor Kong struggle, Sian-woo realizes that the syndicate is not just a group of people, it's a web of influence that spans beyond what they had ever imagined. And the final piece of the puzzle is closer than they think. But now, more than ever, Sian-woo knows one thing for sure: she cannot trust anyone, except herself. The game is only just beginning. Chapter 20, Unraveling the Truth. The struggle in the apartment is chaotic. Mu-young and Professor Kong fight fiercely, their movements swift and calculated. Sian-woo, her mind reeling from the shocking revelation, watches in disbelief. She feels a mix of fear, anger, and confusion swelling inside her. This was never supposed to be her fight. But now, she can't look away. Mu-young finally manages to pin Professor Kong to the ground, his eyes flashing with determination. But there's something different in his gaze, a coldness that Sian-woo has never seen before. For a moment, she wonders if she really knows Mu-young at all. "You've been lying to me," Mu-young says, his voice low and dangerous. "You're a part of all this, aren't you?" Professor Kang's eyes glint with something dark, almost satisfied. "I'm not the one who lied. You were too blind to see the truth. You thought you could run away from it, but you were always part of the game. Xianwu takes a step forward, her voice shaky but firm. What game? What do you want from us? From me? Professor Kong chuckles softly, almost mockingly. What do I want? You've been the key to it all. You've seen the ghosts because they've been trying to warn you. But now, it's too late. You're too far in. And so is he. Xianwu's heart skips a beat as she glances at Muyang, still holding Professor Kong down. His expression is unreadable, and a knot forms in her stomach. Muyang, she whispers, stepping closer. Is it true? Were you part of this from the beginning? Muyang looks at her, his face a mixture of frustration and sorrow. I never wanted this for you, Xianwu. But you were right to be suspicious. You were always meant to be part of this. The ghosts, they've been trying to tell you the truth, but you couldn't hear them. I tried to protect you, but I couldn't stop what was already set in motion. Xianwu feels a chill run down her spine. The weight of Muyang's words is suffocating. Could he have known all along? Could he have been using her? Was it all a part of a larger plan? Professor Kang's voice interrupts her spiraling thoughts. It's not just about him, Xianwu. It's about you. You were always the one who could see the truth, who could uncover the secrets of the past. But you were too blind to understand. The truth? What truth? Xianwu's mind races as she tries to piece together the fragmented memories, the images of the ghosts, the cryptic warnings. And then, as if everything aligns in that moment, the pieces fall into place. The photographs, she whispers. It's all been connected to the syndicate, hasn't it? The ghosts, they were people you hurt, people you betrayed. Professor Kang's smile widens, but there's a hint of regret in his eyes. Not just me. There are others, many others. The syndicate was built on betrayal, deception, and power. And you, Xianwu, were meant to uncover it all. The ghosts, they were the ones who tried to stop it, tried to warn you. But you never saw them for what they truly were. Muyang finally stands up, his hands trembling as he releases Professor Kong. This has gone too far. We need to end this, now. Xianwu nods, her voice determined. You're right. We can't let this go on. Chapter 21, The Final Confrontation. The night feels heavier than ever. The apartment is eerily quiet, the air thick with tension. Xianwu, Muyang, and Professor Kong stand in a standoff. They know what they have to do, but none of them know how to make it happen. The ghosts seem to hover, their presence more tangible than ever. Xianwu feels the weight of her decision settle on her shoulders. She has to end this. For herself. For the spirits she's seen in her photos. And for the future that's been tainted by lies and manipulation. We can't let him escape, Xianwu says, her voice strong. He's the one behind it all. Muyang looks at her, his face filled with a mix of concern and admiration. Are you sure, Xianwu? This isn't something you can walk away from. Xianwu nods firmly. I'm done being afraid. The ghosts have already given me the answers. It's time to stop running. Professor Kong watches them, his expression one of quiet resignation. You can't stop what's already been set in motion, he says with a hint of sadness. But I guess it doesn't matter anymore. It's always been about the power. Before Xianwu can react, the room grows colder, the lights flickering. The ghosts in her photos begin to manifest around her, their faces contorted in pain and fear. They surround her, their hands reaching out, as if urging her to make a final choice. Xianwu steps forward, her heart pounding in her chest. The spirits seem to be guiding her, showing her the way forward. She feels the weight of their collective pain, their need for closure. She knows what she has to do. She turns to Muyang, her voice trembling but resolute. We have to destroy everything. The syndicate, the lies, and the ghosts who can't move on. It all ends tonight. Muyang nods, his eyes full of determination. I'm with you, Xianwu. Let's end this. Together, they confront Professor Kong, the final battle between truth and deception about to unfold. The ghosts stand by, their presence growing stronger with each passing second. The air crackles with the energy of the spirits, as if the entire world is holding its breath. Chapter 22, The Final Choice. As Xianwu faces Professor Kong one last time, she knows there is no turning back. The ghosts, the spirits of the past, and the syndicate's dark influence are all intertwined, and the only way to stop it is to sever the connection once and for all. The final confrontation is not one of violence but of truth. Xianwu holds up the camera, the tool that has connected her to the ghosts all along. She takes a deep breath and snaps the shutter, capturing the image of Professor Kong, the man who has orchestrated so much pain and suffering. The photograph flashes before her eyes, and in that instant, everything changes. The ghosts begin to fade, their sorrow lifting, and the oppressive atmosphere that has plagued her for so long begins to dissipate. Professor Kang's expression turns to one of fear as he realizes the power she now holds. No, he shouts, but it's too late. The ghosts, once trapped by his manipulation, are now free, and so is Xianwu. As the room falls silent, Xianwu lowers the camera. She feels a sense of peace, as if the weight of the past has finally been lifted from her shoulders. Muyang steps beside her, his expression softening. It's over, he says quietly. Xianwu nods, her heart finally at ease. The ghosts have moved on, and the syndicate's grip on her life has been broken. The truth has been revealed, and she has taken control of her own fate. In the distance, Xianwu sees the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. The night is over, and a new day has begun. Chapter 23, A New Dawn. The morning light begins to filter through the windows of Xianwu's apartment, casting soft rays across the room. The heavy, lingering atmosphere from the night before has finally lifted. The air feels fresh, as though a veil has been removed. The ghosts, whose sorrowful presence once haunted her every step, have faded into nothingness, their restless spirits freed by her bravery and determination. Xianwu stands by the window, her thoughts a whirlwind of everything that has happened. The camera, now a symbol of her strength and resilience, rests heavily in her hands. She looks down at it, remembering all the faces it has captured, the ghosts, the betrayal, the secrets, and all the people she's lost along the way. But now, it's different. She has survived. The truth has been revealed. The dark forces that once controlled her life are no longer a threat. Muyang steps quietly into the room, his presence still unfamiliar yet comforting. He stands beside her, his gaze drifting to the same sunlight that fills the room. There is an unspoken understanding between them now, a shared weight lifted from their shoulders. You did it, he says quietly. His voice is gentle, full of admiration and relief. Xianwu turns to face him, her eyes tired but full of clarity. We did it, she corrects him, a small smile tugging at her lips. You helped me. You protected me. Mu-young nods, his lips pulling into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd be part of something like this. But I'm glad it was with you. There's a silence between them, an awkwardness, yes, but also a quiet acknowledgement of what they've both been through. Mu-young steps closer, his expression earnest, and for the first time in a long while, Sian-woo feels the walls she's built around her heart begin to crumble. I know I'm not the easiest person to deal with, Mu-young begins, his voice sincere, but if you'll have me, I want to stay by your side. I know we can't go back to what we were before, but I want to build something new. Something that's real. Something where we don't have to hide from the past. Sian-woo meets his gaze, her heart racing, torn between the desire to accept his offer and the lingering fear of everything she's gone through. But deep down, she knows that Mu-young is no longer the same person he once was. He's shown his true colors, even if it took the darkest of circumstances to reveal them. She takes a step forward, her hand gently brushing his. I want that too, she admits, her voice soft yet filled with resolve. But we have to take it slow. We both have our demons to face. And there's still a lot of healing to do. Mu-young smiles, his expression softening, a look of relief washing over him. I'll wait. I'll do whatever it takes. The two of them stand there, united by their shared past, but with a newfound sense of hope for the future. They've been through hell and back together, but now, they can finally move forward. Chapter 24, Moving On. Weeks pass, and life begins to settle into a new rhythm. Sian-woo's photography career takes off, no longer burdened by the haunting presence of ghosts or the manipulation of the syndicate. The foreign magazine that once seemed like a distant dream now publishes her work, her photos capturing not just beauty, but a deeper, more profound truth. Each photograph she takes is a reminder of her strength, her survival, and the journey she's been on. Mu-young continues his studies, but he's no longer the reckless playboy he once was. He stays by Sian-woo's side, supporting her dreams and helping her rebuild her life. They take their time, learning to trust each other again, slowly weaving a new relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. The pain of the past remains a part of them, but it no longer controls their lives. One day, as Sian-woo and Mu-young sit together in a small cafe, enjoying the quiet moments of their new, simple life, Sian-woo looks out the window, the sun casting golden light on the world outside. The ghosts are gone, the past no longer haunts her. And as she looks at Mu-young, her heart feels lighter than it has in years. There's no more running from the past. No more hiding from the truth. I think we're going to be okay, she says quietly, her voice filled with hope. Mu-young nods, his hand gently brushing hers. Yeah, we will. And as the sun sets, casting a warm glow over their lives, Sian-woo knows that this is only the beginning of a new chapter, one where love, trust, and the lessons of the past guide them forward. Epilogue, a new beginning. Months later, Sian-woo finds herself at the top of her game. Her photography exhibitions are sold out, her work celebrated for its raw emotion and the depth of its storytelling. She's no longer just a student or someone haunted by ghosts. She's a force to be reckoned with, someone who has learned to embrace the darkness and the light within herself. Mu-young, by her side, has changed too. He's no longer the reckless flirt, but a man with a purpose. Their relationship, though still slow and steady, is founded on trust, mutual respect, and the shared experiences that have shaped them both. The ghosts of the past have moved on, leaving behind only the lessons they brought. And in their place, Sian-woo and Mu-young find peace, knowing that no matter what the future holds, they'll face it together, stronger, wiser, and unafraid of the shadows. The story of Xianwu and Mu Young ends not with a tragic twist, but with the promise of a future built on love, truth, and a sense of freedom they never thought possible. And with that, Xianwu's camera clicks one last time, capturing a moment of true happiness. The end.